Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, AI Beyond the Bot, How to Infuse End-to-End AI into Your Member Experience Strategy, produced and sponsored by TTEC Digital. My name is Sayed, and I'm a business development representative here at Callahan & Associates. And at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our guest speakers for today. Sue Hodson, Executive Director of Digital Sales at TTEC Digital, Cliff Martin, Executive Director of Customer Experience Transformation at TTEC Digital, Gerald Baker, Solutions Architect at TTEC Digital, and Scott Ridgway, Principal Genesys Sales Engineer at TTEC Digital. Welcome, Sue, Cliff, Gerald, and Scott.
Thank you so much. We're excited to be here, and thank you everyone for taking the time with us out of your busy schedules. We really appreciate it. So we're looking forward to going through some great content with you today. And like we said, we'll be monitoring the chat for questions as we go along, and we'll try to answer them within the chat. But if we have any time at the end, we also will answer questions. So our agenda for today is just a quick little overview of TTEC Digital for those of you who have not met us before. We're going to talk about really AI today and AI in the future. What can we do today to impact the member experience, the agent experience, the leadership team's experience, really kind of following the track of a member interaction from end to end. And really, we're going to start with a conversation about the chatbot. Obviously, I think whenever anybody thinks about AI, that's kind of the first thing that people think about. Is some kind of a chatbot experience. And we are going to talk about that today because it is an important part of what a lot of our credit unions are doing. But we also want to talk about what happens after that and what are some of the things we can do to enhance the experience of the member and the other team members of the credit union by using different types of AI within the credit union environment. We're going to go into a live demo after that. And after we finish with our live demo, we're actually going to talk about, so what do you do to actually be able to, take advantage of some of these different things? What should your implementation roadmap for AI look like? And you might be in varying stages of that. So looking forward to our time together, like I mentioned, and we will get started now with just a little bit of an overview of TTEC, just so you kind of know what we do in the space. I love this little intersection of the circle here of contact center, CRM, and AI analytics. They're kind of two different things. But I would just say that we believe that the power of how you serve members is in this intersection between really what you're doing in the contact center, the different technologies you have, the different channels you're supporting, et cetera. Having also a great CRM platform that has lots of capabilities within it to manage your relationship with your member, and then also using AI in positive ways for member experience, agent experience, leadership experience, and having the ability to take those insights and do something positive with them to impact how you're delivering really kind of a member experience or a member journey from end to end. So this is really kind of at the core of what TTEC does for our clients on a day-to-day basis, and what we're doing specifically in the credit union space as well. As we kind of just move on to what we specifically do for our credit union clients, we actually have been in the credit union space for over 20 years, probably maybe closer to 25, had a specific credit union practice for over 20 years. Some of you may know us from our previous iterations of companies, Adapt and Avtex. We've been part of the TTEC family here for going on about 3.5 years now. So we're actually able to bring more of these things that I was just mentioning on the previous slide to bear now. But really, we have been working with credit unions on a day-to-day basis for 20 plus years. And we have every size of credit union you can imagine. So we started with, lots of smaller credit unions. A lot of those have grown to at least, let's just say, $1 billion and above. So most of our credit unions, we have about 220 credit unions. They're about, usually most of them are $1 billion in assets and above. And I would say over 100 are $3 billion and above. So we've got some, good sized credit unions within our family. And our largest credit union is PenFed, being the third largest credit union in the country. So we're doing lots of different things related to the topics at hand today. If you look at kind of our next slide, it actually kind of just shows you what we're talking about on a day-to-day basis with our credit union clients. These are the key things that are on their hearts and minds that we're working with them on. And obviously, we're going to be focusing most specifically today on artificial intelligence. But obviously, we're going to be talking about bots related to self-service. We're going to be talking about authentication and passing information from a bot potentially, as well as how do we make sure that your members' experience is as easy and also secure as possible, both for the member and also for the credit union's benefit. So we're going to show some of that to you as we are talking today, but just wanted to kind of say that integration between applications, as I mentioned in that previous slide, as well as thinking about how do we really kind of move from self-service to live service in the channel of your member's choice, as well as handle authentication as securely and seamlessly as possible, will be part of what we're talking about related to this AI topic as well. We do actually partner mostly in the credit union space with Genesys. We are the largest Genesys partner worldwide. And, most of the credit union clients that I mentioned are on Genesys platforms, mostly are on Genesys Cloud platforms today. And we have been working with Genesys for over 25 years. A lot of our clients in the previous world were actually on premise-based solutions and have been migrating to cloud. And of course, all our new clients are in cloud. We do actually have the ability to bring other solutions into our family as necessary. And we're going to show some of those different things that are relevant to this AI conversation today. But just wanted to kind of explain that's kind of where we're starting from. And now I'm going to turn it over to Cliff, and he's going to really talk about kind of what is happening in the AI landscape and then lead us into our demo with Scott. Thanks, Cliff. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, everybody. Okay. My name is Cliff Martin. I lead consulting teams here at TTEC Digital that focus on CX transformation and really wringing the best out of our technology investments as we look at supporting our members in our credit union space. So I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. And first of all, let's all agree a bunch of capabilities that we've all been playing with in the contact center space and in business for decades have now suddenly been lumped together with this shiny new title called AI. And I'm going to debunk a little bit of that and say, what is AI really in customer experience? I think it comes down to 8 key capabilities. And if you look at the way, look at my graph here, human performance at 100%, and some lines that rise from it. In the late 1990s, the very first automation and what we would call machine learning capabilities began to come out, and they were around handwriting and speech recognition. It's ubiquitous today to use your phone to deposit a check without having to go to a bank. That's some of the, optical character recognition was, one of the very first automation tool sets. But things were stagnant. If you look at the release, while things got really mature through the 80s, and then we pick up image recognition, turn of the century, what happened in 2016 and 2018? Well, that's cloud computing. That's Google and AWS and very large cloud processing cycles coming online and becoming available to research and development and capability teams everywhere, both in business and in universities. And we have seen this massive leap forward in capabilities as the ability to compute and process became democratized and available to all. And now many capabilities that have, because they have converged over the line at nearly the same time, we're having an AI revolution. What's really happened is that the capabilities have matured rapidly at about the same time. The next question we're always asked, when are the machines going to take over? When is Skynet going to become a reality? I'll say what keeps us very safely in command here, friends, common sense completion, green on the right-hand side, grade school math and code generation. These are places where AI can play, but cannot play with high quality and high consistency. And it is common sense completion that is every time we do a CAPTCHA and prove to an authentication gateway somewhere that we're human, we're training a bot somewhere else to act and behave more humanistically. So until the bot is able to, or an AI engine is able to make huge intuitive leaps like our wet computer brains can, we're safely in charge. So no, we sit at a moment in experience design as contact center leaders where the tools have rapidly matured, and when used together in the right place at the right time, it really does look like artificial intelligence and magic. But we'll unpack it a little bit further in this conversation. Let's go to our next slide. So AI isn't just about smart chatbots anymore. About 83% of the credit unions customers out there that we support believe AI will be a clear differentiator for them in the future. An even larger number are using chatbots as part of their customer experience today, but less than a quarter are using the deeper AI capabilities that are available specifically within Genesys or other modern CCaaS and CRM platforms. Things like predictive digital engagement, agent assist, and also customer assist, sentiment analytics, post-interaction analysis for post-contact, outbound, next best action, and coaching training. Some of the greatest, juiciest bits are still somewhat undiscovered and unused, and we like to help break down some barriers of understanding and deliver to you maybe some approaches how to move forward with some of these deeper AI capabilities. Let's go ahead, keep going. Organizations that move to expand their AI maturity first, the outcome will be a valuable competitive differentiation in a really crowded marketplace. We are competing for members every day, and we can really differentiate our experiences both digitally and on our platforms in a way to capture folks, get them talking about us, and hopefully grow our base. So we thought we would express AI capabilities to you in a slightly different view than you may be used to. We here at TTEC Digital, because we build and run call centers all day, every day, and have done so for decades, we kind of look at multiple constituencies when we think about digital experiences and member experiences. I think about our front door, which is our digital front door, our analog front door, both our locations, our branches, and everywhere between our websites, the digital marketing forms that we send out, or direct mail. Anywhere our members meet us, our brand, our products, or our offers is our front door. Our members and our agents are the targets and recipients of assistive technologies, and most importantly, our leaders and contact centers are being enabled with these capabilities. So some capabilities, like biometric identification, reside purely at the front door, throwing information to everyone around them. We wanted to, really show you multiple constituencies in the contact center space are served by these capabilities, and they stack. We'll pull up that process for a moment and go ahead to our next slide. So how do we approach this? It can be daunting. I don't know where to start. What if I'm already on the journey, but I don't know if we started on a solid foundation? We really believe that you can approach conversational AI broadly in a crawl, walk, run approach. And it begins first and foremost with automation readiness. This is about bulletproofing people and process at the foundation to get ready for and to deliver even better results with the automation that you're going to deploy. How do we do that? Big knowledge management deep dives, harvesting all of your agent and customer facing FAQs and solutions freshening them up and making sure that they follow consistent templates and have strong keyword mappings behind them that are logical and well thought out. Having a digital engagement strategy that understands what knowledge and what intents should be served in which channels. We deeply believe that any intent that is highly complex or has the potential to become deeply emotional or fraught doesn't belong in digital channels. We should blaze a pathway for that intent and that member right to a human in our contact center. All of our digital channel design work is for digital adopters in journeys of learning or journeys of discovery. Those in journeys of immediate, urgent need and service shouldn't get lost in digital channels. They should get right to someone that can help. And that really is about digital engagement and channel strategy. So with a great foundation, let's talk about how we get into simple automation. So let's crawl towards doing router and FAQ bots. Not all bots are built the same. We've built, since the pandemic, I think our last count is about 590 plus bot and automation deployments that we've built. And unfortunately, I'm sad to report that about 99% of those have been router bots. A router bot is a bot that says, welcome to my channel. I do 5 things and only 5 things well. Which of the 5 would you like? And if you try to do anything but that, you get stuck in feedback loops and disambiguation loops and don't get what you want. That's a router bot. But router bots are extremely powerful when placed perfectly in an inbound, channel where sorting out who I am, what I need, and how I feel about things right now is important. So router bots have a place. They're great at sorting, but I don't want to leave router bots in place long-term to interact with customers. That's where we make mistakes. But understanding how to build and deploy them sets you up as you come out of doing simple automation to start going to, walk towards rising complexity where we start to release NLU bots. A natural language understanding bot is the one that I dream about building every night before bed because it has the power and the training and the access to knowledge behind it to simply ask, how can I help you? And pull apart the subjects, object, and verb of whatever we type or say into that channel and get to work mapping to intents and serving people. That's the hardest bot to build. It takes a lot of time, but it is the single most impactful sort of automation to put between you and your members because it can be conversational, deeply resolve problems for them, or bring that member to one of our colleagues so deeply understanding what they need and deeply authenticated that we never say, who are you? Prove that to me. We immediately get to work and say, I understand what your problem is. Let's get to work on that. So as we run out of rising complexity, we start to approach customer-worthy automation that is self-healing. Folks enjoy working with and don't hit 9 or scream agent at to get away from. And along the way, you most likely will have built yourself an automation center of excellence, where folks are using frequency and sentiment analytics tools to identify friction in member journeys and tune it right on the spot. Your data science capabilities will be more enabled. Your member journeys will be orchestrated prescriptively, and that means we have the moment to do next best action, prescriptive and proactive selling, data dip-driven interactions and engagements. So remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step. Your conversational AI journey should begin with an automation readiness assessment and getting ready to understand how good is my foundation, how solid is it, what can we do to bulletproof our contact center to be ready for this impending change, because there's so much goodness in these products.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cliff. Really appreciate it. We're going to turn it over to Scott now and actually kind of show you how to do some of these things we've been talking about. This is obviously within the context of Genesys, the Genesys platform for the most part, with some different integrations that we've done to other solutions out there that make it even more powerful to provide these AI solutions to both your members, your agents, and your managers. So we're going to start with Scott now.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Sue and Cliff. And just, Sue, can you give me a head nod, or Gerald, can you see my screen okay? It's always the hardest part of a demo, right? So yeah, it's kind of springboarding off of all the things that Sue and Cliff mentioned. I know we don't want to really necessarily talk about bots in and of itself, but there's a lot of ways that AI permeates the story of Genesys Cloud and what we've done at TTEC Digital with that platform. But I think a really good place to start is with a bot. So we're going to pretend I'm on your website. And I'm a guy named Tony Stark, and I'm thinking about a new vehicle loan. I've already gone through all sorts of things on your website. I still am looking for information, so I am going to engage with a bot down here. Now, the bot can serve multiple purposes. It can be a knowledge bot if we want it to be. So if I have questions about consumer loans and auto loans or something that I'm curious about, very quickly I can drill into that. I can simply ask the question right up here in the search bar and have this bot return the information for me in the form of an FAQ article. But we're going to pretend I've already done all those things. I want to escalate to actually doing something more interactive. So I'm going to click on the Message Us button. And as I do this, the bot is going to come to life. It's being transparent. It's telling me it's not a live person, it's a bot, and we're in complete control over all these different paragraphs, the messages we want to give to your member. What do I want to have help with today? I want to check my balances before I apply for a loan. I want to make sure I have enough collateral in my checking account where I do most of my work. And now you can see, even though I typed it incorrectly, it's understanding that intent that I want to do. So before it can give me balances, it knows that it needs to be sure I am who I am. So I'm going to put in my member ID or my account ID, and then it's going to ask me for a second layer of authentication, which we're in complete control of. So I'll go ahead and put that in. Don't pay attention to that top secret PIN number. It could be the last four of my social number. It could be a credit card number. But now that the bot knows who I am, it's going to offer me the types of accounts that I have. And think about what we know about a member once they authenticate. We know their marital status. We know their street address. We know what accounts they have if they're past due. We can see here that Tony Stark has all of these different accounts. I do most of my banking through my checking account. So I'm going to pull that share up. And it also knows I have more than one share associated with checking. I'm just going to pull this one up. This is where I do most of my banking from. It's where my direct deposits go. It's where I do my bill payments from. And it's giving me all of that self-serve information. Now, if this is all the information I need, I can stop here. It's a win-win. We know it doesn't cost anything to not have to work an interaction that never even goes into a queue. But I do need some more help. I'm looking at my balance here. I think that's plenty of collateral. I should be able to apply for a loan and get approved pretty quickly, but I want to be certain. So here's where we have some of that, that conversational type AI, natural language understanding. Like Cliff said, it can understand my intent. So if I say that I want to interact with a live agent, I can type that in. It understands the intents, and now it's putting that interaction into the Genesys Cloud queue. Now I'm going to move this out of the way, and let's focus a little bit more on the agent experience. Now, I'm not receiving this interaction because currently I'm off the queue. So what I'm looking at here is my interface as an agent with Genesys Cloud. This is where I spend most of my time on this interactions landing page to handle incoming interactions from my members, regardless of the channel. So I'm going to put myself on the queue. And when I put myself on the queue, here's workforce management reminding me I'm supposed to be on a break, Sue, when you scheduled this webinar, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. So I'll go ahead and answer that interaction. Let's get that out of the way. And now as an agent, I can see everything the member did with the bot so I can pick up where they left off. But this is where things start getting more interesting, and we want to talk about AI in this. Now, of course, I have these things called canned responses where very quickly I can drop a greeting into here to send it to Tony. And let's go ahead and close that off. Oh, I did not answer it. Let me do this again. Sorry. Let's answer it this time. There we go. And now I'm ready to use this canned response. So this is sort of a manual thing. It's not really AI, but just to show you the tools we have here at the agent's fingertips. Here's my chat greeting. That looks perfect. I'm going to insert that in and hit the send button. Here's where the magic starts to happen with AI. I'm going to go to this tool up here at the top. So here's my panel button at the very top, if you can see where my spotlight is. And this is what we have called Copilot. It's Genesys Cloud Copilot. So we know Copilot's a little bit of a generic term, almost like Kleenex, right? Facial tissue. Everybody's got a Copilot. Microsoft has one. Salesforce has an Einstein Copilot. Well, Genesys Cloud does too. And it's already working in the background. This is constantly interrogating the contents of the transcription here in the center lane on the highway that we're looking at on this screen. So if the member says something like, thinking about an auto loan. Let's do that. I'll send that over. And you can see that right away by interrogating what the member sent us, it's surfacing a knowledge article. Not only is it surfacing a knowledge article, but it's summarizing it. If this was a really long article, you can see here is just the short part of this. Now, I want to send the entire article, not just the quick summary. So here's where, as an agent, I can click into this, not just the brief answer, but I want to insert the entire article. Tony, is it okay if we switch this to a phone call? And Tony can say maybe some other things. Let's take a look at what happens next. Before we do that, what are your auto loan rates? So he sends another question in. Notice Copilot is still actively surfacing information for me as an agent. Right here is where it says, oh, based on what the member just sent, I have a new suggestion. There's a new knowledge article surfaced right here for me. As an agent, I can click the thumbs up or thumbs down. If these rates are a little bit out of date, that's fine. I could click the thumbs down, so one of our knowledge manager curators could make sure that that's up to date. This looks good to me. I'll go ahead and send it over. Okay, now this is with a digital channel, this Copilot. Let me show you something else. Let's say that Tony agreed to, yeah, let's go ahead and talk this over with a phone call because I'm really confused by your website. What I can do in Genesys Cloud, because I know all this information about the member, they authenticated through the bot, right? So I can do something called channel switching. I could send Tony an SMS, I could send him an email, but let's kind of cut to the chase. I'm going to start a phone call with Tony. And I want you to see that while we're on a phone call, the screen looks almost identical. The only difference is I have an agent script popping up for me, but I'm going to go ahead and answer the phone. But I still have that Member 360 profile information coming up for me. The most important thing for this webinar is I still have Copilot. So as I'm speaking with Tony, and Tony has a question, what are your auto loan rates? Yes, I'm interested in an auto loan, and I'll go ahead and set the phone down. We're going to see as the transcription starts catching up with me, I'm going to start surfacing those knowledge articles for me right here on the right-hand side as well. And you can see those popping up on the screen for me. So as an agent, if I can read and speak at the same time, this is almost making an instant expert out of me. Okay, so again, this is where AI is doing its magic. Now let's kind of take the happy path here in just a moment, but we're going to pretend first that this is a potentially risky transaction. So I'm going to mute my phone out so we don't get much feedback. Let's do it right here. So I'm going to do another method of AI. This is where we get into our intellectual property called smart apps. This is something that TTEC Digital has created. We've been serving this for our members in our credit union accounts for, like Sue said, probably close to 25 years. So the most important thing as we're speaking about AI is not necessarily the screen we're looking at here where I've got a suspicious activity history screen, I've got threshold warnings, but we also have AI in the form of biometric authentication. Now, I know Cliff talked about that a moment ago, but with the partners we're using for this, we're actually doing deepfake detection. We've heard about ChatGPT, how it can mimic like the president's voice and things like that. Not so easy. It's not as easy as the news would make you believe it is. So Tony has already registered his voice with us. Now, if he hadn't, I could opt him in and walk him through that, but he already has. So all I need to do is click on the microphone right here. He's already registered his voice. You can see the voice authentication is in progress. Now we're talking about the weather. Hey, how was Thanksgiving with you and your family? As it's picking that up, we're going to see that it's going to, here in just a moment, authenticate me again, using all of those deepfake detections to make sure that it's not a synthetic voice and my voice has been authenticated. Okay, now in the interest of time, again, we're going to take the happy path here. Everything's good with Tony. He says, thank you so much for your help. I appreciate everything you've done. And he disconnects the call. The call disappears. Look at what Copilot is doing next for me. Now, this is where we're getting into two different types of AI. It's both predictive and it's generative. So let's break that down a little bit. Predictive. I could have lots of different wrap-up codes for this department. It could be a dozen or more. But again, based on interrogating the transcription, Genesys Copilot is predicting which one of these wrap-up codes is the most appropriate one to select. Well, we know Tony was asking about an auto loan, so we're going to say auto loan inquiry. Here's where the generative AI comes in. I love this. I used to be a tech support agent right out of college, got promoted to supervise and manage the team over time. And one of the hard things was to get my agents, and even as an agent, to put notes in my CRM application about what I talked to the member about. Look at this. Look at how much time this is saving me. So I've got two really good things going on here. One, I'm much more likely to hit my wrap-up code target by having fewer to choose from. Number two, I don't have to waste that wet gray space between my ears trying to remember what I talked to the member about. Literally, Gerald and I have seen contact center agents in credit unions. They write notes down on a notepad, and at the end of their shift, they go back into their core and they manually type all that stuff in. This did it for me. It's right here at my fingertips. I could hit the copy button right here, drop it into my core, drop it into my CRM application, but I'm really good with everything that's happened here. I'll go ahead and click the done button. Now we're finished with that interaction. We're still on this web messaging or chat session. And Tony, again, on his side of the screen has, he has said, thanks for your help. He decides to disconnect it. We're going to go ahead and disconnect the chat on my other monitor. And look at what Copilot is doing. It's doing exactly the same thing, regardless of channel, digital channel, voice channel. As an agent, it's got the same time-saving capabilities. This was an auto loan. Here's the reason that the member contacted us. Here's the resolution, just like we saw on the other screen. Here's the conversation summary, just like on the other screen. I'm good with this. I'm going to click done. And voila, with the power of AI, I more quickly, easily, effectively, and elegantly went through both of those interactions with the help of AI. It's not replacing me as an agent. It's complementing me. It's making me better and more effective at what I do. Okay, now let's take this a step. I'm going to take my agent hat off. I'm going to take myself off the queue here for a moment. Yes, I know I'm scheduled to be on the queue. I'll get on the queue here in a bit. But let's attack this from a supervisor's perspective. So as a supervisor, here's my scenario. I want to find the interactions that happened maybe today, maybe over this week, that were the worst of the worst, and I want to be able to do something about them. So as a supervisor, again, inside Genesys Cloud, I'm going to go into Performance Workspace. In Performance Workspace, this is where all of my default dynamic and historical views are. Now, in my scenario I just laid out, I said I'm a supervisor, I want to find the worst interactions. So I've got all these default views on the left-hand side. I'm going to search my views up here. I already know which one I want to select, but I can search these very quickly. I know I want to search for interactions. There it is. I've got my saved views on the right, but we're going to do this longhand for the sake of a demo. Here are all the interactions that happened today, December 4th. Oh my goodness, we're already up to 21 pages. I don't have enough time to click into each one of these individually, look at the recordings, and figure out which ones are the worst of the bunch. That's not a good use of my time. How can I use AI to do that? Well, I'll show you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this down a little bit. I only want to look at phone calls. So again, clicks not code. I'm configuring, I'm not customizing, but I still, even though I narrow the interactions down to just one channel, I still have a lot of pages here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go up here in the top left-hand corner where we have this content tab. And here is where the power of AI with speech and text analytics is going to make my job so much easier as a supervisor. First thing I'm going to do, again, I'm going to configure this. I'm going to add a couple of columns. I want to see agent empathy scores. So when a member calls in and says, hey, I got an NSF fee, I want to hear my agent say something empathetic. I'm sorry that happened to you. I apologize. I can understand how frustrating that must be. I also want to see all the different topics that were spotted. Think of topics as being like a bucket where all these keywords and phrases live. Now, I know that didn't do much for me just yet, but very quickly, I added this column for topics, and I also added this column for empathy score. Now, to make my job easier, I'm going to use this filter toggle one more time. Inside of this, again, with the power of AI with speech and text analytics, I could certainly look up keywords or phrases. I could look up particular topics, but for the sake of example, I want to look up that sentiment score. You can see it goes all the way to -100. That's as bad as you can get. and it goes all the way up to 100. That's as good as you can get. So if I want to filter out the bad ones, I'm going to say anything that fell below, let's say like a -40. That's pretty bad, right? That's about halfway to the bottom. I'll hit the apply button. Let's close this filter up, and voila. Here are the worst calls that happened today. The reason I added this topics column here, as well as empathy score, I'm going to go ahead and expand this one. Oh my goodness. This member mentioned an attorney or speaking to a lawyer. They mentioned canceling their account and a whole lot of other things. There's a reason this is the worst call of the bunch today. So as a supervisor, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click into this recording. As I click into the recording, it's going to take it just a moment for the transcript to come up. By the way, the speech and text analytics would have worked just the same for SMS messages coming in, emails coming in, all the different interaction types we can use speech and text analytics on. But this is a phone call. That's why it's taking it just a moment to do the transcription. It's pulling it down from AWS. And now as a supervisor, I've got the complete transcript here. Everything that the agent and the member spoke about, I can see every bit of the transcription here. In the top left-hand corner, this is where I can see what the agent's empathy score was. Okay, again, did they say those phrases? I'm sorry that happened to you. I apologize. I can understand how frustrating this must be. But here with our member, with Tony Stark, -100. That's the overall member sentiment score. Not much change. In fact, it went down by 4 points. This was a rough one. I can also see over here on the right, as we move down to the bottom right-hand section over here, I've got an AI Insights as well as an events panel. Now remember with the conversation or the generative AI that we saw with Copilot, how it was creating that conversation summary for me? It now becomes a permanent part of the recording. I can see how it was summarized. If the agent added any emphasis to this, I got it all right here at my fingertips. As a supervisor, I'm really starting to get a handle on what went bad with this call. Here's another bit of magic. Looking at speech and text analytics, I'm going to click over to the events panel where I'm going to clear all of these filters off. Let's go through them a little bit one at a time. Did the agent say anything unhelpful? Okay, doesn't look like it in this example. Did they say anything empathetic? They did. They did express empathy. What about negative and positive things that were spoken back and forth? Now, one of the things, I don't think Cliff necessarily mentioned this, but we've all heard about this. We've heard about AI and hallucinating. I want to make sure that this AI didn't hallucinate, so I can look at any of these events in the event panel. Agent knowledge gap. The agent didn't know how to answer the question. When I click on this, notice it took me right here to where that was spoken in the transcription. It also moved my slider bar up here at the top in the player form where that was spoken. So if I want to drop an annotation in here real quick, this is where the member started talking like a sailor. Drop that in here as a flag or a note right here on this. You can see I just dropped that bookmark in. That now becomes a permanent part of the conversation and the recording history. Now let's take this a little bit further. As a supervisor, I do want to take this information I'm looking at and use it in a way where I can coach up my agent to make them better at what they do at serving our members. How am I going to do that? We have a different set of tabs right over here. I'm looking at the transcript tab right now. Let's jump into the quality summary tab. In the quality summary tab, I can see, now I'm not going to go over all the mechanics of this part. There's a policy in the background that's automatically assigning these evaluation forms to interactions so that my agents get a regular cadence of feedback. Has really nothing to do with speech and text analytics. This could have been a good call, but in our example, it was not. Now, I've not looked at this evaluation at all today. As a supervisor, I know I need to complete this, so I'm going to click into it, and it's going to bring up the evaluation form for me. I'm looking at this for the first time today, I promise, and look at what I see at the very top. There were 7 questions automatically answered by this thing called Evaluation Assistant. That's another expression of AI in Genesys Cloud. What we can do is with all of these yes-no questions, the binary yes-no questions, we can assign a topic when we build the evaluation form so that we can help the supervisor answer these questions automatically. Did the agent greet the caller properly? The topic spotting says it did. I, again, want to check to make sure that that's on target. The agent said, "How can I help you?" And right here, if you caught it real quickly, is where it came up in the transcription. It's also moving the slider bar just like it did before. So as a supervisor, now I can get through these evaluations and give my agents a more regular cadence of feedback, like I mentioned a moment ago, more quickly and more efficiently than I've ever done before. I'm going to spot check maybe another one of these. Did they verify the caller's member ID? Same thing. When I click on it, I can see right here where they did, and it moved the player form. Fantastic. That frees me up to answer the multiple choice questions. Did they resolve the reason for calling? I'm going to say, not completely. It was still, they had great empathy, but it was still a rough call. When I go down here a little bit further, I'm just kind of making this up. What was the overall quality of the call? I'm going to say it was satisfactory. I can drop some notes in here. Great empathy, but you could use Copilot more to your advantage. I can choose when I want to release this. Now, I'm not going to release it just yet because I want to show you one more expression of AI. Before I release this to the agent, now this may have been a really bad one. I don't want to release it immediately. I can choose when I want to release it down here. Maybe it's so bad I never want to release it, but I'm going to in a moment. But I'm good with this the way it is. But before I release it, I want to schedule a coaching session with the agent. As a supervisor, it's going to bring this up where I can bring, the interaction right into the agent's desktop. So here for this session name, I'm going to say great empathy, but work on using Copilot, okay? And I can also add some notes right in here. I'm going to choose the name of the facilitator because maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe I want to assign it to Cliff or to Gerald or something like that. There we go. I'm choosing the facilitator. Let's go to the next screen. Here's where it's automatically attaching a link to the recording for the agent. I can also drop additional links in here. So we said we want to work on them using Copilot. So I'll drop that URL in here. I could put a document on here. Let's go to the next screen. Here's where more magic with AI happens. Now we're halfway through this week. I'm getting pretty booked up already. Let's look at next week. I'm going to click the check button, system using AI, and our workforce management schedule and all our service level agreements. You tell me, when is the best time to schedule this coaching session with the agent? And right now it looks like I live in a utopia. You're not going to have 30 excess staff, but I do in my demo system. But I'm going to say, let's take a look at Tuesday the 10th. I think I'm good with that. I'm not going to do it on Friday the 13th. That would be crazy. When I'm ready, I can hit the finish button. And again, voila, AI as a supervisor helped me do all of these things. Now I'm ready to submit and release this evaluation to the agent. Let's take one quick deviation or detour on this. Let's take a look at what the agent looks like, what their experience is like. So as an agent, I'm going to go to my activity tab, and there's a lot more AI type things we could talk about with gamification and more with speech and text analytics. We just don't have time to get into some of this today. But as an agent, I'm putting my agent hat back on. I want to look at my schedule. When I look at my schedule, I saw that blip up here in the black box reminding me that something changed, but didn't quite catch it. So let's take a look at next week, December 10th. Here's my training session that I just created in the background, again, using AI, where I said, hey, great empathy, need to work on Copilot. As an agent, I can click into this attachment, review the recording so I can get my head around what Gerald probably wants to talk to me about. Very quick, very easy, and very effective for both agents and supervisors. And I know we're almost out of time. There is one more thing that I want to show you. Since I'm showing this schedule here as an agent, this is my workforce management schedule. I'm going to pretend to be a workforce manager or a supervisor who's in charge of scheduling my agents for my team. How do I use AI to my advantage to do that? Okay, so here's the agent perspective, but let's take a look at this from a supervisor or workforce manager's perspective. To do this, I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to go into admin. This is where I can manage all the different aspects of Genesys Cloud based on my roles and permissions. I'm going to drop down here into my workforce management. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go right to forecasting because this is where AI is really going to shine bright. I need to create a new forecast because we're coming up on the end of December. I need to make sure I start things in January off on a good note. So I need to add a forecast. How am I going to do that? Let me click the add button up here. And I'm going to start this forecast. Let's start it for January, and I think January 27th is going to be the next date that I want to use. And here's where I'm going to use AI for forecasting. I'm going to use something called automatic best method. This is using like 26 or 27 different algorithms in the background, looking at my entire body of historical evidence for all the interactions coming in and going out of the system. And it's going to recommend what it thinks is going to happen. I can also use automatic best method to not just do a 1-week forecast. That's going to keep me pretty busy if I have to keep doing that every week. I'm going to do a 6-week forecast. I'm going to give it a name. We're going to call it automatic best method, beginning 01/27/20. I can't believe I'm saying 2025 already. Let's add the forecast. Here's where we see the magic of cloud computing that Cliff mentioned when it started on his graph. Okay, so this is AWS. That's where Genesys Cloud lives. And lickety split, this is a system that's been in production for about 4 years. Very quickly, it looked at all of my historical data and it created a forecast for me. It automatically uses those 26 or 27 algorithms to smooth out the peaks and valleys. Now, there's still maybe something that I know that Genesys Cloud doesn't. For example, maybe this Thursday and Friday, since Christmas is coming up, right? We're going to offer maybe a new product or service around the holidays for our members. So I think we're going to get more volume. I can certainly expand this. I can add a change or a modification. Let's say that the volume is going to go up 20%. So I can still do those manual changes to the forecast if I need to. But the real beauty of this is when I finish these changes and save it, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go back to my list of forecasts that I created. And here is the one that I just did, automatic best method, starting January 27th, 2025. That was pretty quick. When I click into this, here's where you can see with your own eyes all of those different AI algorithms that we have in the background, random walk, ensemble, moving average, point estimates. They're all right here. All of those went into play behind the scenes under the covers with AI to help me more quickly and effectively generate that forecast than doing it the old-fashioned way, whether you're using a spreadsheet or you're looking at doing something with a weighted historical index. Using the power of AI for forecasting made my job as a workforce manager so much quicker and easier to accomplish. Now, there's certainly a lot more I could show you, but again, I know we've got about 10 minutes left, and there's a little bit of wrap up that we want to do as far as some of the things Sue mentioned. Okay, you've seen all this great stuff. How do we plan for it? How do we do it? So I'm going to pause or stop my sharing now and turn it back over to Sue and Cliff to take us over the finish line.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. And feel free to keep putting your questions in the chat. We are trying to answer them as we mentioned as we're talking here, but we should have some time for questions and answers at the end here. So I want to just kind of go back to this slide, and we do know this is a busy slide, but I think it's just really an important one to wrap up with because it's a really good representation of really what we've been talking about here today. And that is really kind of starting with the bot, right? Starting with some kind of a self-service experience in the channel that the member chooses to, to start in. But then having the ability to go beyond that, to pass information from that, and then start helping the, into a live interaction and start helping the agent be supported through some of these different AI technologies that Scott was showing that are available to them to make that member experience better. And then ultimately, some of the other things related to authentication we talked about, and also really getting to more advanced things like next best action and predictive kinds of things that you might want to do with your members, both from the member experience, but agent side of things. Also what the leaders are thinking about, hey, we want to make sure that we're talking to our members about these important things, right? And things like, speech and text analytics and telling you what the really the content of your conversations is about and what you should do about that as a result. will really help you make good decisions about what you want to do moving forward, what's going on and what you want to do moving forward. So I think we really just want to make sure we're thinking about, yes, this whole member journey, if you will, like from start to finish in any kind of interaction they have with your credit union, and the tools that we can use to make that interaction as positive as possible, from self-service to live service. But I think we also want to think about, okay, so what are the tools that we're giving the internal team members that are going to enable them to do that, to make those tasks much more effective? And where do you want to go from here? So it's kind of that AI today, where it was, where it is today, and where it's going. And then kind of just back to Cliff's point of the crawl, walk, run. Ashley, if you just go back one slide, or maybe one more, there you go. You've got to start somewhere, right? So, you might be in different places in your AI journey. A lot of our credit unions have started using some router type bots, some conversational AI. We should mention that we do have a variety of AI partners, conversational AI partners, that are part of our ecosystem, as well at TTEC, but we've also integrated with a lot of the ones that you guys are familiar with out there in the credit union space. I didn't mention that in some of the integrations that I put in some of the responses, but we've integrated to Posh and Amelia interface, and Glia, I think maybe Glia, and then just a variety of other companies like Core AI, et cetera, our own bots, building bots within Genesys. Cliff has mentioned, we build tons and tons of bots, and we have other practices besides Genesys, like Google and Microsoft and Amazon. So we've built lots of different bots and different flavors, but specifically in the credit union space, we want to think about, hey, what is it that you maybe already started to do, and where are you kind of in this journey? Some of you also are have maybe some good CCaaS tools, but we're starting to see that some of the other things, obviously the buzzwords of generative AI and bots are kind of the things that most people are talking about on a day-to-day basis in our conversations with our clients, but they're not really doing a lot with generative AI yet. And some of these other kind of predictive or prescriptive things to start making this whole thing, really kind of work together to provide excellent member experiences. So we want to just make sure that we're, helping with that for sure. I want to just kind of open it up. We've got a little bit of time. So Saeed, did you want to just share a couple questions that maybe have come in, and then we will do a quick little wrap up on kind of next steps?
Sure, awesome. That was really, really awesome. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just a friendly reminder, if you have not already asked your question in the Q&A option, please drop any questions you may have. And the questions we're not able to get answers for during the live session, the speakers will reach out to you after the event to make sure those questions get answered as soon as possible. And then it looks like we had one from Indu Sahisu. I don't know if you already addressed that. Oh, it looks like Gerald already addressed it. One question came in. It said, what can you do with the content transcriptions, call data collected from customer interactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's like it's kind of like you're getting this information and then you're like, now what? Now what do I do with it, right? So it's great to have a tool that is allowing you to pull the not just the sentiment analysis, but the actual content of the interactions themselves, right? And I feel like in every conversations I've had with a credit union over the last 20 years, they generally know what their members are talking to them about, right? Because they have a sense of that in their contact centers, but really seeing trends and then what does that mean and what should we do as a result of that? And so that's something that we actually do as part of Cliff's team, actually, in our CX transformation team. We actually do have some different conversation intelligence packages to really kind of take the data science and make sense of it, if you will. So now that you actually have the tools to, have AI, be kind of categorizing these things, what do you do with this information? So we do some different packages to kind of take the data and then make sense of that, and you know, kind of give you some suggestions about what to do ongoing with that. So it can be as, you know, as infrequent as one time, or it can be as frequently as every month that we meet with you and kind of go through that actionable data, and, you know, set up those insights with you. So that's something that we do to really kind of help consult about what should you do with this information going forward, and what does it mean, you know? So
Thank
any
you.
other questions you want to ask?
One came from Indusahi, set up follow-up call. Indu, you can set up a follow-up call by contacting using the email addresses provided on the screen or in the presentation link. And then I just want to be mindful of time. It looks like that's all the time we have for questions today. And I want to say a big thank you to Sue, Cliff, Gerald, and Scott for taking the time to share your expertise with us today. We really appreciate it. And also a big thank you to all of you who joined us for the live webinar. We hope you found the information shared today helpful. Please keep an eye out for our post-event email that will include the recording and the slide deck from the presentation today. It will also be available on creditunions.com on demand library. Thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, everyone.